I am so excited that you are here on tonight. We don't take it for granted. How are you feeling? We just wrapped up the first full week of 2026. How are y'all feeling tonight? Again, great evening, great evening. We hope that everyone has had a phenomenal weekend. We hope that you did something today that both stirred your being and refueled your soul. So great evening. How are y'all doing? Welcome to Boss Moves. We are on episode 49. And tonight we're talking about something that for those of us, even sometimes when you feel like you've mastered it, every now and then you just have to constantly like look back at that mirror and look at your grace and see, how am I doing with this particular thing? And we're talking about showing up real tonight. But listen, before we get started, y'all drop it in the chat. I'm ready to make boss moves. I'm ready to make boss moves. I am ready, ready, ready. We hope again that something great has happened to you and for you during this first full week of 2026. And guess what? If it has not, today is a brand new day and tomorrow starts a brand new week. And so we wish that for each and every one of you guys. Make sure you do us a favor. Make sure you hit the like button, the share button, and share this video, even because you guys know that's how we get out the good word. Remember, what it means to be boss means that we are bold, we are optimistic, we are spontaneous, and we are always substantial. We're making sure that we leave people, places, and programs better than we found it. And so tonight's topic is one that so many of us deal with, right? It's not just one type of person that deals with imposter syndrome, especially for those of you as you begin your journeys on in leadership roles, right? So it's very easy to think that we've got to fit a certain box or a certain mold to have impact. And so tonight, I just want to remind you very briefly tonight that that's not the case. And before we get started, I want to send a major kudos. We've had a great week this week of impact over across a couple of different states. And I just want to say thank you so very much for those school systems and corporations that have allowed us to come in. Shout out to you guys for starting the year in the right way. So thank you guys so very much for that. Also, y'all, last night, my heart is absolutely just smiling. My heart is smiling. We had our first personal development event of the year. Was called Goals and Glitz, the Vision Party. And y'all, there are women from all walks of life. Y'all, some even drove over 3 states. Y'all, I had someone who drove over 3 states to be with us last night. We were all just ready to talk about, how do we level up this year? How do we activate our next level of evolution and making impact, right? How do we operate in purpose? And then I gave them some major tips on how to level up in their income as well. So I just want to say thank you to all of those beautiful souls who showed up in the space last night. Y'all, we did it again, another sold out event. I was scared we weren't going to make it, but down literally somebody bought the last ticket like at 4:15 yesterday. And so we had another sold out event. So kudos to you guys. Thank you so very much for engaging with us on last night. But again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Tell me, do you have something in your cup? What's in there? And let's just for a moment pause. What was a win for you from the first full week? What was a win for you from the first full week? Y'all gonna hear me talking to my baby. He's supposed to be on a stock market meeting, and he's saying the code isn't working. Tyler, the code is working. Try it again. All right, y'all. Y'all heard my mama mode. Get on the stock market game, baby. Do you just be doing? But what was a win for you from this first full week of 2026? I just shared with you some wins. Was that I was able to operate in my purpose in schools across 3 different schools, corporations across 3 different states, and so even some virtual. So we were very excited about that. And last night we had the most beautiful event with the most beautiful women who decided that they are going to level up this year. So go ahead and drop that. But let's jump on back to the topic, because you guys know we are here for a good time, not a long time. So tonight I'm jumping right on in. What's the first thing that I want to say to you as it relates to being fiercely authentic and using your realness in leadership? I want to tell you, and I think sometimes we misconstrue that if I'm real, I'm reckless, right? If I'm real doesn't mean that you are sharing every single thought in your mind, right? How crazy would the world be if we all shared every single thought that crossed our mind? That is not what we're talking about, y'all. But what we are talking about is leveraging who you truly are, showing up real, not with the plastic on, not with the fake on, but showing up a real version of yourself, because folks, that's what people connect with. And I always use this example when I'm working with teams. You guys know when we have children initially, we baby proof the homes, right? We put plastic, the coverings in the electrical sockets because we don't want electricity to flow. We want to stop the flow of electricity. Well, if you are walking in your building and you aren't willing to be real, it's the equivalent of there being this plastic covering in a place where you want light to happen. It's not going to happen because we can't get connectivity. People cannot connect with things that are not real. And it's so interesting because, working with middle school students, middle school babies really, really, they get it and they'll tell you really quick. But as I have really been working with schools that are as low as pre-K 3, right on up, that's the case for all of us. So all ages, real recognizes real. And so it's very important that we are critically important, that we are operating in who we truly are and using it to leverage. So put this in the chat for me. Relatable equals trustworthy. We've talked before that you cannot create change if the people don't trust you, and change happens at the speed of trust. And so if you're talking about how can I get these people to come on, tying it to last week's topic, how can I get people to come along on the ride and go with me? The first thing I want to say is you've got to show up real. What is something that if I were you and you're working on this, something that you would hear me say is, we're not here to be perfect, we're here to progress. And so what often happens is if you are showing up is Miss Fake Barbie doll, right? Or Mr. Ken or Miss whatever. Like people it's an unrealistic, unattainable goal for people to try to be perfect, right? And so if people feel like the bar is perfection, most of the time people fall back because it's like, I don't want to disappoint myself. I don't want to disappoint you. And so it's critically important that we're operating and we're showing that we're human. Like I make mistakes, and it's very important that your people can hear you say, oh, that wasn't the right thing. I messed up. Owning it is a big part of you being real. Again, being real does not have to be reckless. It would be reckless if you said everything that's on your mind. It would be reckless if you were just operating out of emotions. But I am here to tell you, if you are intentionally leveraging who you are and being real, it is not reckless. Matter of fact, is a way to get respect. So real and respected should be a goal for us as leaders. So put that in the chat for me. Real and respected should be a goal, right? And that's not a likability contest, because I think so many times, so often people think, I want the people to like me. Respect and like, should they go together? Yes. Is it much better when it does go together? Yes. But that does not have to be the case. Let me tell you, this is a transparent, real thing here. So I had a former employee. I was at her school earlier, and she had posted about her team had a great time. And one of the former employees made the note, you know what? When she first came, I didn't like her. I did not like Dr. Nelson. But in that same statement, she said, you know what? I respected what she was doing. And over time, I learned so much from her. And so you've got to know that if you are showing up fiercely authentic, especially if you are new in a space, people may not like that up front. Like, let me tell you this with all due respect. You've got to know that if you are willing and courageous enough to show up as the realest version of yourself, first go around, people might be like, I don't know about that. That's different. And y'all know how we feel about something that's different. We don't know it because we don't trust it. And so that's where it comes in. You got to be authentic and consistent. Let me say that again. We got to learn to be authentic and consistent if we want to gain that trust. And we absolutely can do that. So again, the first thing I want you to remember, that being real does not have to be reckless. And it's all about allowing our realness to impact our trustworthiness, right? And remember, the more people trust you, the faster you can get movement in the organization. Y'all do me a favor. Thank you. Make sure you've liked this video, you've shared it, you've tagged someone. Again, being real does not have to be reckless. We are here not to be perfect, but to make progress. Y'all drop that in the chat. Those are things, y'all know chapter 11 of Boss Moves. I'm always going to bring it up, right? Language that lifts. Your language matters when you are creating this environment where people feel safe. And y'all know this research has shown us in Harvard School of Business and all over so many metrics, right? That high performing teams have psychological safety. Let me say that again. Across all fields, right? The highest performing teams in that field, one thing that they have in common, and it is a predictor of high performing success, is that they have psychological safety. What is that? That's safe that, you know what? I feel seen, I feel valued, and I trust the people that are in front of me with the same, right? And so none of that happens if people feel like you are being fake with them. None of that happens if they feel like Miss T or Miss J or Miss Q gets version Dr. Q. This person gets Dr. Heckle. This person gets, no, you got to be consistent with your authenticity if you want it to leverage where you are. So again, that's the first thing to keep in mind. Again, if you're consistent, it creates that predictability. It helps to show that you're fair. And of course, it helps to build that emotional safety. And when you have emotional safety, people, I promise you, you can get a lot done in your teamwork. So that's the first tip. The second tip I want you to think of, and this kind of ties in, authenticity builds connection faster than you trying to be charismatic. So research has shown, again, y'all know this in psychology, that we respond differently to men in leadership than women in leadership. So men being charismatic, kind of the research has shown it works a little bit better for men. They can get away with it, right? For women, it comes across as, who's she talking to? Or who does she think she is? Like, she can't be that nice. She can't be that. She can't, right? And so I want to remind you, don't spend your energy trying to show up a more charismatic version of yourself than you are. Spend your energy trying to show up the best version of yourself, right? Because again, there it builds that connection faster. And I just said a moment ago, and y'all dropped this in the chat. Change happens at the speed of trust. Drop that in the chat for me. And make sure you've liked the video. You're going to help us out tonight simply by hitting that like video of the like on there. But again, change happens at the speed of trust. And so if we're talking about building connection and earning trustworthiness faster, you're going to do that by being the realest version of yourself. So what's something very, and I like to give you some frames, right? So I gave you the frame a few minutes ago was we're here not to be perfect, but to progress. That's a great one for tip one. Under tip two, one of those frames could be, here's what's true, because we're not going to act like something is great and it's not, and vice versa. Here's what's true. Here's what we are going to do, and here's where we're going, right? And I want you to hear me and hear me well. I'm not telling you that your team needs to know every single detail behind the scenes, because as a leader, it is your duty to protect your team. It's your duty. I don't want my team to feel every blow that's coming at me. Hashtag you the leader, so you're built different. Drop it in the chat. I'm built different. I can take a different level of blow than particularly those that I am serving. I'm built for it. You're being built for it. Drop that in the chat for me. I'm built different. You just are. As leaders, we've got to know that. And so your job is to protect. Your job is to shield, right? I don't want my team stressed out about all the things that I'm stressed out about, because ultimately it's hashtag it's above them. And just like some things that are above me, I don't want to add that undue pressure for them, because they have enough to deal with, right? Now, that does not mean that I don't pass on accountability where it's necessary, because often that is, but that undue stress, we want to keep that as minimal as we possibly can. But even in that, if people feel like, wait a minute, something's happening, something's going on, and she's not being honest with us, she's just walking around here smiling, saying and whistling, whistle while you work, and we see the ceiling falling down, and she's not being real, that's a problem, right? So I'm not saying that. And in those situations, here's the frame. Here's what's true, right? Let's say you had a major fight, a brawl on the bus, right? In this day and age, a brawl in the lunchroom, right? In the cafeterias, for those of you, the break area, right? Those of you that are running factories. This actually happened, right? So we're not going to act like it didn't happen. Here's what happened. Here's what we are doing, and here's where we're going, right? So those three simple things help you show up a real version of yourself. People trust your word, and so much of this goes back to communication as well, right? So here's what's true. Here's what we're doing right now, and here's where we're going. Just some other thoughts on that. Again, you've got to model what we expect. If we want people to be real, they've got to know that we are giving that to them, right? What reaches the heart, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. So always keep that in mind. And then this is the last one. Again, this was a quick one tonight. Your truth is a tool. Let me say that again. Your truth is a tool. You should be using it not to try to impress people, but to improve people. Let me say that again. Your truth is a tool. And if you use it wisely and intentionally, it can be used. Listen, don't try to impress people. That fades really quickly. That's like the wind, right? The wind on a Mississippi Southern day down here. It's really windy right there, right now. We don't want that. But what we want to do is allow our experiences to show up in ways that we learn from them and the people that we serve learn from them as well. So here's a frame for that. Here's a truth. Here's the lesson. And this is how we move forward with it, right? So using your own story, your story can be and is a superpower for you. Let me say that again. Your story can and should be a superpower for you. You are a collective, right? You are a being who has all these beautiful experiences, even the ones that don't feel beautiful, that they help you to be, they help you to become, right? They're helping you to evolve if you're using it and reflecting correctly. And so why are you hiding the fact that, you know what, I once flopped too. And this is what happened in this scenario when I thought that it was appropriate to tell a child this. This is how this worked out for me, right? Being very honest. Last night, I was very honest with some of the ladies, with the ladies last night about a very personal issue. And, after the fact that, like, thank you. I needed to hear that. Thank you so very much for sharing that part of your journey. And so you've got to know it takes you being courageous. Right, you got to be really courageous, and you got to be sure and confident about that thing, right? Don't share those things until you're ready, but just know that your journey, if you share it, can help somebody else along the way. And that's what that last S in boss is about. It's about being substantial. How do we pave the way for other people? And so if we would learn that your story can be your superpower. And talking about your story, one thing I want to challenge leaders to do is to have a leadership story bank. Research in leadership has shown that people remember facts 20 times higher if they're folded into a story. So again, for all those of you that are in education, those of you, that have teams following you, if you can figure out how to fold what it is that you're teaching your team and what you need your team to know into a story, the research is crystal clear that people remember it 20 times. They're 20 times more likely to remember it there. So again, what's this frame for this one is truth. This is a truth that's happened to me in the past. This is what I learned from it. And as we move forward, this is how we can use this lesson to help all of us be better in the organization. So again, just keep in mind that you can't be fiercely authentic if you are not spending time with yourself, right? You've got to figure out, who are you at this stage in the game? Who I am today on, what is this, January the 11th, 2026, is not the same person that I was 10 years ago. And to be honest with you, it would be awful if I was the exact same version of myself today as I was just a year ago, right? The goal is to keep evolving. And if you want to keep evolving, that means you're changing. And you got to keep getting reacquainted with the elevated version of yourself. And so as you're talking about being fiercely authentic, that can't happen if you aren't sure, again, of who you are. So you got to spend time by yourself. Take yourself out to eat, take yourself to the movies, go sit in silence, buy some water, make sure that you're journaling, make sure that you're exercising, make sure that you're getting the sleep. All the things that y'all hear me say every week is important to your being. Let me say that again. It is impossible to be not well and lead well. Let me say that again. If you want to lead well, you need to be well. And a part of you showing up fiercely authentic, you're going to miss some of the best parts of yourself if you're lacking physically, if you're lacking mentally, if you're lacking spiritually, right? If you're lacking socially. So keeping that in mind as well. But again, our top 3 things tonight that we want you to keep in mind as it relates to being fiercely authentic and using who you are to support your team. Again, being real does not have to be reckless. You got to be intentional with that, though. Again, that does not mean that everybody needs to know everything. That's not what I'm saying about that. But what we are saying is intentionally sharing who you are and in where you are to help your people level up is something that's very possible. Remember that frame with that one is, listen, nobody wants to work for someone who is perfect. You can say that on paper, but in reality, day to day, it is a bar that is so unrealistic that people shut down, right? It's demotivating. And so we don't want to do that. And so a frame here is, y'all, I'm not perfect, I'm progressing, right? And so that's the same thing that we're expecting of the team. We're expecting you to move forward, not to necessarily be always a masterpiece. That's tip 1. Tip 2 was, again, remember, authenticity builds connection faster than charisma. And remember, change only happens at the speed of trust. What was that frame here? This frame was, here's what's true. This is what we're doing about it, right? And this is where we're going next. And then that last tip that I want you guys to think through is, your truth is your truth. What's your story? This is your journal. I want you guys to really do this tonight before you go to bed. Take out some paper, go sit somewhere silent. You might have to go hide yourself in the bathroom, right? But do that and make sure that, you give yourself time to write out, who are you? How are you showing up? Right? Because again, that matters so very much. What's your story? People will benefit from hearing your story. Remember, y'all, it's always a great day to be you. It's always, always, always a great day to be you. Never, ever forget that. I see we're having a little technical difficulty, but it's okay. We're going to keep it moving. What's your one takeaway from tonight? What's your one takeaway from tonight? And some of you may be seeing this after the fact. I have to reload it, I see. But what's your one takeaway from tonight as it relates to how do you leverage your realness in leadership? The biggest thing I want you to remember is that your story is a superpower, and you should be using it as often as you possibly can to help people learn a truth, a lesson, and how to move forward. Remember, y'all, it's always a great day to be you. Never, ever forget that. I want to encourage each of you to go make boss moves this week. You are the right person at the right time to do just that. Remember that. Never forget that. It's always a great day to be you. Never forget that. Y'all go be boss this week.